Hi, everyone. I'm Hilton Forrester. Welcome to my podcast. I've got a great friend of mine with me today called Miles Thomas. We go back many years, and I'll be asking Miles a series of questions, I guess, about his life and certain things to do with his business. Miles is into stock market and shares. And before we get going, I'd love for you to just explain what you do, Miles, for a living, and so that then I'll ask you a series of questions. So, go ahead, Miles.
Well, Hilton, I want to thank you for the opportunity to, spend some time with you today because it's been a very long time since we spent time in each other's company. So thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Let me just say that I'm a trader, so I make money making money in the stock market, and I also run an academy and I teach the same thing as well. So
Awesome.
that's what I do. In addition to that, I also consult with other asset classes like buying land in Africa at the moment and other things like that. So really that's my interest right now. My background, as you know, I was an accountant for about 20 years. And then on the back of that, I went into investing and I've done many different types of investing. But where I'm now is basically land, property, and the stock market.
Awesome. Great. So, when you talk about stock market and shares, so what advice would you give someone who was interested in that area, who wanted to get involved in, if they had a series of funds, they wanted to invest in it, what would you advise them to do apart from coming to you for the advice sort of thing?
Well, I would advise this: get an education. I would advise you do not speak to a stockbroker until you understand what it's all about,
Okay.
because you must have the ability to know when you're getting bad advice and you can hear it. Whereas if you are in an area where you don't have no knowledge at all and you're giving bad advice, you just can't tell. And so the best antidote for that is get an education so you actually understand the terrain. And then when someone tells you foolishness, you can hear it. And then you just leave those guys alone and go to the ones who are really in fact, you'll be able to hear who the experts are after a while. You'll know. Just learn it. Go and
Yeah.
learn it. And I mean, I got into it by just doing it. And the truth is, even though that's one way of doing it, it's a very expensive way of learning because you're going into an area uneducated and ignorant, and then you learn as you go along. And depending on what problems you face, you're going to have either some cheap lessons or some very expensive lessons. You're not being realistic,
Yes.
not really. And
Yes.
you're going to learn anyway. You're going to learn the hard way by making lots of mistakes and paying for it and hoping you come out the other end without giving up, other end smart, or you can literally just go to a teacher and they'll teach you faster than you can learn by yourself.
Awesome. Awesome. And what are some of the, I would say, mistakes you've made in your journey? Because you mentioned that you can go through the hard way as you go through. I know for me, when I started out in construction, I sort of got employed somebody and then went into the area where I had a business, and then there's no teaching towards that kind of thing. You're more or less getting client after client after client, and learning as you go along. So in your area, what is the things what you would recommend to the listeners to get in place to avoid those kinds of mistakes, apart from like you mentioned the education?
Okay, let me tell you one of the first mistakes one of the first expensive mistakes I made. I went to a property auction
Yes.
in the 1990s and I bought a four-bedroom house I actually bid for a four-bedroom house, and I think it was near Wimbledon, the Wimbledon area. Anyway, so and the house needed some work doing to it, so I kind of got a very good price. I went to go and get a mortgage, and at the same time, housing market had crashed. So the banks were very shy about lending money to anybody at that stage, and I couldn't get a mortgage. And just for the listeners, when you go to an auction and they they put the bid down and say property's yours, you have to pay a 10% deposit straight away.
Okay.
So I paid a 10% deposit, and then I had to go away and get the rest of it, my mortgage. I went to go get the mortgage, and nobody would give me the money. So I went to my cousin, who was a mortgage broker, thinking, oh, at least he'll be able to help me out. He also tried. He couldn't get me a mortgage. So I lost my deposit.
Wow. Okay. That is something.
That was the first lesson I learned. So I walked away from that thinking, okay, the next time I go to the auctions, I'm going to make sure I get a mortgage in principle. And
Okay.
so I'm going to go to even though they can't give me a mortgage up front because they don't know what the value of the property is, etc.
Yes. Yes.
Just in principle, will they give me a mortgage? And then I will go to the auctions and go that route. Otherwise, you don't want to literally give away a deposit, which is non-refundable, and only to find you can't fund it later on.
Yes.
That was the first mistake I made. I came back and I told my parents my experience. I was kind of frustrated, and they all told me I was a big idiot. Why would you do this anyway? And I'm thinking, but hang on, I didn't even know this stuff.
Yes.
But then I didn't know. I wouldn't, and at the time, by the way, I didn't tell my missus because I knew if I told her, I would not be able to live it down for a long time. So I kept it a secret from her. I told my parents, but I did not tell my missus. I thought, no, I'm not going to tell her because I don't want headache for 2 weeks. She wouldn't let live down. She wouldn't let me live it down. So that was one of the first ones. Another big mistake I made, and this is in the stock market now. I had just learned how to make money when the share prices fall.
Yes.
And so I thought, great, let me, start doing this. And by the today we call it shorting, but when I was doing it 20 years ago, you couldn't really do this,
Yeah.
right? But I did it anyways. I learned how to do it. I was doing it anyway without realizing I was doing it. So essentially, Halifax was going down in price, and I saw overnight in Japan that the markets had crashed. So I thought, great, I'm going to short Halifax. So I come along and I short. So and in the early days, I had to make a phone call to my stockbroker, and I was working at the time. So I came into work, and before the market opened at 8 o'clock, I rang my stockbroker and I said, as soon as the market's open, just short Halifax, because I knew Halifax was roughly there, and I was expecting it to fall because the Japanese market had fallen. And it was falling down. So I thought, great, I'm going to take advantage of this. Now, remember, I've got nothing to watch. I'm just basing it on what I saw happen last night,
Yeah.
And I come in and also my way of checking what's going on. So we'll look at the Financial Times. So at the Financial Times, then for the very next day, we'll tell me what happened the day before. All right.
Yes.
So that was my way of doing it then. So I'm in my broker and I said, can you short Halifax or sell Halifax?
Can you explain what short is?
So
Okay.
I'm basically selling something that I don't have.
Okay.
And then later on, I've got to buy it back to complete the transaction.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a bit like if I sell something and I collect the money for it, I've then got to go and buy the product and then deliver that product.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
So I basically said to my broker, sell Halifax, because I knew where it closed the night before. What happened, and this is another lesson I learned then, is that when the market opens, it gaps down. When something overnight happens somewhere else in another country, the market gaps down. So it didn't start where it left off the night before. It gapped down, and then it then hit a low point and started to go back up again. And because I had done a sell, so as soon as the market opened, instead of me selling at the ceiling, I sold at the floor.
Right.
I sold at the very lowest point.
Yes.
Yes. And then the share price started to go up. Now, the maxim is that you buy low and you sell high. You sell high, and you buy low. I sold low,
Right.
because as soon as the market opened, it was already gapped down, and it started to basically go sideways, and then it started to move up again. So as it was moving up, now I'm losing money. I'm working away in my job. I was an accountant then. I have no knowledge of what's going on.
Yes.
In my lunch break, I go to, I used to work in a hospital. And so I went to the doctor's mess. and the doctor's mates had a Sky TV in the mess. So I turned the channel over to what was it, Sky, CNBC, those channels, and I wanted to find out what was going on with the price. And I saw that Halifax had started to climb up, and I thought, oh God, I'd done a quick calculation. I thought, I'm in trouble. And I thought, okay, it's going to go down, it's going to go down. And the whole day, the market started to recover. All right. Anyway, cut a long story short, the very next day, I realized I was in a real problem. And by the afternoon of the following day, I just told my broker, look, you got to sell this and come out. And I was down 30,000.
Wow. Wow.
And that was a time when I couldn't afford £30,000. 2 days I couldn't afford it. And that's what told me, if I'm going to do this, I need an education.
Yes.
I can't just be ignorant, making mistakes like this, because I want to do this for a living going on. Because I saw in my imagination at the time, when I retire from work, age 60, I will be doing this as a hobby, stock market investing. So that was my dream then. And so I wanted to have the time between 20 and 60, 40 years to get really good with practice. But I thought, I can't be losing 30 grand a day and stay solvent. That's not going to happen. Work for me. So that was basically my 2 areas of mistakes: one in property, one in stock market.
Wow.
And both of them woke me up, and I said, I must learn. And that's why I stress, go and learn from someone who knows what they're doing, because you don't want to make very expensive mistakes and then end up in a place where it's just very difficult to come out of it. Now, I had a missus and I had children, and so I had responsibilities in that area. Do you understand? And so for me to be throwing money away like that was not an easy thing for me, because I wasn't a single guy. I was around with responsibilities.
Okay, that's an amazing story. Some hard lessons there for you to learn. What would you say is you mentioned that in those days you had ways to do it.
1990s.
Okay, cool. And the modern way now, I know everything's moving online, the technology's moved along. A lot of people can do it from their phones and things like that. What do you think is the betterment or differences in that area, the modern way?
I would never go back to the 1990s. Even though it was fun looking at the Financial Times, that's not the way to go. You can pick up your mobile phone, you can pick up your computer, and you literally are in touch with what's going on minute by minute, second by second. And what we can do now was what the professionals was doing, in the 20s and 30s. When I say professionals, I mean the guys who are the really big, the Goldman Sachs of this world, the Morgan Stanleys, those guys. They were doing what we could do now.
Yes.
The retail guys are basically caught up with the professionals now.
Okay.
So we're almost on a level playing field. Not quite level, but we're almost there. So we can do what they could do back then. And
Right.
it's much better now.
It's
Much
fast.
much faster, and you just have much more access to knowledge. You can if you know what you're doing, you can do very well.
Great. Okay. What would you say is the in your particular area then? What's the most common way where people don't make money? Because I know it's great when it comes to that the stock market and things like that. It can be emotional. You can be chasing money, or you connect with something and you because it's you're moving from your mind to doing actions, and you can get emotionally involved in certain things. What would you say as a tip for that?
Okay, Warren Buffett is someone I paid a lot of attention to 30 years ago, and I never met him, but I used to read his books, read his anything that came out on him, I'd read about it. And so I almost had him like some kind of like a virtual mentor. That was one person I would basically pay a lot of attention to him. And one thing I learned from him is that when you're trading, just keep your emotions out of the situation.
Yes.
So make a decision based on logic and based on intelligence, your intelligence and your logic,
Yeah.
and obviously do things that you understand. So so that was for me one of the lessons. And also understand, another key lesson is understand what the value of an asset class is. Just understand what it is. And then once you know what it is, then look what the market is doing. Is the market selling it above the true value, which means selling at a premium, or is it selling below the true value, which is now getting at a discount? Know this value first, and then when the market goes up and down, you can know whether or not it's expensive or whether it's cheap. Yeah, that was one of the lessons I learned from him very early on, and because I had an accounting background, getting that basic fundamental asset, valuation was something I paid a lot of attention to. So I wanted to know what the true value was first, and then I would see, okay, is it expensive based on its true value, or is it cheap? And then
Yes.
I'd make my decision based on that. If it was here, I can sell it because it's going to come down. If it's here and it's too cheap, I can buy it. It's going back up again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And those are the things I kind of anchored myself to. So I had a grasp of reality, because the stock market going up and down, you don't know what's real until you know what this value is first. Yeah.
Yes.
And so that was one of the ways I approached it.
Yes. Cool. Okay. I know you do teaching and you teach others and you've got a platform for teaching that. What are the most common mistakes you're seeing people who are starting out make in that particular area?
Um, I would say it depends on who you are. If you're a young man in your 20s, you tend to be a little bit reckless, because you've got too much testosterone coursing through your blood. And so those types
Mm.
like to take a lot of risks. And by the way, they should take risks, but they shouldn't be reckless with their risks. They just should be understand what they're doing and then take the risk. And don't be, ignorant and then take risks. Don't do that. And I found also for women, they are the complete reverse. Unless they're tomboys, because there's some women who were tomboys as kids, they'll behave like men, but in the ways that they think, so that they'll be jumping in and taking risk as well. But on with those, except with that exception, I've noticed that they are risk averse, and they will be very careful about what they do, and they want the instructions and they want to follow the rules. So that's a really good thing, because once they've got the rules locked down and they know what they're doing, they become very good traders, to be honest.
Yes.
They
Yes.
become very good. So those are things I've kind of observed, um, and I would just say for the the young guys, be patient, because they want. I remember saying to someone, that you can double your money in the space of 1 year. And I'm thinking, I'm saying something outrageous, as in, because if you compare it to the banks, where they used to pay you 5% a year, right? And we've been calibrated 5% a year, about right. When I said 100% a year, I'm thinking I'm sounding outrageous, right?
Yes. Yes.
To someone who's not in the know. And he was thinking, "No, man, that's lung things, man. I want money now." So I'm thinking, "Whoa, stop, calm down. What do you mean you want money now? What's your strategy for getting money now? What are you gonna do?" You know.
Okay.
But he wasn't interested in learning a strategy. He just wanted quick money fast, and that is something if you know how to get quick money and you are skillful, go and get it. For example, Usain Bolt, he can make 1 million in 10 seconds by sprinting up and down, but that took him like 20 years to get there. Do you know what I mean? It took 20 years to get the skills to get there in the first place. If you saw Usain Bolt in his very first Olympics, he came last
Yeah.
in the finals. He came second to last. So it's not, even though he can make quick money now, it took years to get to the point where he was that skillful to get the quick money. Do you understand? And
Yes.
so you can't be a complete beginner and ignorant and then expect quick money. That's not realistic. So get your skills, get your education, and then once you are the best in the world, then go and get your quick money. But that can take 10 years, 20 years to develop that skill set. But that's what you must do.
Awesome. That's a
Really.
great answer. That's a great answer. I think we talk about the 10,000 hours to learn that skill, I
Malcolm
mean,
Gladwell's book is powerful, because that is the key right there. The people who are absolutely ridiculously brilliant, they have got more than 10,000 hours of training and education and behind them to
yes,
even see that level of mastery.
yes,
And that's what you must understand, that you must get that first.
yeah, cool. And before we started, we talked about failure and that particular thing where a lot of people don't see the behind the scenes, as you've mentioned. What would your contribution to that be? Because I heard you mention about Walt Disney and some of the other greats, how they started out.
Now, I think Walt Disney's story is a brilliant example. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to share with you as well what I said before, because when I was in my 20s, the prevailing attitude in the UK, and we're talking 1980s now, 1990s, the prevailing attitude in the UK at the time was that if you fail in business, especially when you go to the bank, if you fail in business once or twice, you're a failure. And a prime example is a man called Walt Disney, who is famous for the Mickey Mouse cartoons. You know, he went bankrupt 4 times before he even made it.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, now if he was English, I don't think we'd ever got off the, got to that fifth investment. But the point is, it was his failures that allowed him to calibrate and realize, okay, that doesn't work. Let me go a different route. That doesn't work. Until eventually he figured it out. And there are some industries where you genuinely are in the front. It's brand new. It's a brand new industry. There are no books you can read. There are no university lessons you can go to. You can't go to anywhere. So you're literally learning and you're educating yourself on the spot. Now, those entrepreneurs in that industry, they literally have to just learn by just doing. But get those lessons and mistakes out of the way quickly and then go forward. So what's an area that was brand new? If you go back to 2009, something came into the world called Bitcoin, a cryptocurrency. What university could you have gone to then to
Yeah.
learn about crypto?
Yeah.
None. What book could you have bought to read about cryptocurrency? Not many. Do you know what I mean? It was sitting on something called blockchain, and cryptocurrency comes along. You could have bought then 300 crypto coins for about $1. 300. Today, the price is now 19,000 for one.
Okay.
$19,000. So let me just do that quickly. $19,000 times 300. That's basically worth 5.7 million. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many investments could you have made spending $1 11 years ago, and
Yeah.
it'd be worth nearly $6 million today? How many? I can't think of many that grew that quickly. But that's a brand new industry. So
Yes.
in those ones, you genuinely have to learn while you're doing it, and you have to just be quick and sharp and just learn. And but you've got to put in the hours, like Malcolm Gladwell said. When you do 10,000 hours, you're then going to be pretty sharp. You'll know, but that's the journey.
Yeah.
And let me tell you another thing that's really tough about being an entrepreneur. And a lot of people just don't, they glamorize some things when it shouldn't be glamorized. It's just to see the reality. So I think of business like a pizza, and with many slices. One slice is my profession. I came from accounting. Now, here's a problem with accountants. We see everything from point of view of numbers. And so, it's like you give someone a hammer, everything is a nail. Didn't that story?
Yes.
Accountants, they see everything from the point of view of numbers. And so we think we can see the whole thing. But actually, we don't have all the skills. We just have we have one slice of the
Yeah.
pizza. So
Yeah.
we're very good at one slice. There's another slice I definitely did not have, which is sales skills. The ability to present your product or idea to someone and have them drool over it and begging you for it, and they want to give you cash. That's a skill set right there. I didn't have that skill and I didn't appreciate it. And in fact, I'll go one step further. I think I had a prejudice against people who were salespeople. And so I thought that skill set was kind of beneath me because they're kind of, maybe, fast talking, scammy people.
Yes.
And I didn't want to learn that skill set because of that. And that's really not a good thing, because if you're in a business, you've got to sell what you're providing. You've got to sell it.
Yes.
You can't have this aversion for selling and then you realize that if you don't sell, you keep the products and you starve. Do you know what I mean?
You got a garage full of it.
Exactly, and so you've still got to learn that skill set, and you've got marketing skill sets, you've got a legal, make sure you're within a legal framework. Then there's some operational things and logistical things. There's literally a whole range of skill sets that you have to master. And I think entrepreneurialism is actually one of the most difficult things you can do, because when I was an accountant, I just did one thing.
Yeah.
But as an entrepreneur, you have a range of things you have to do. So in my area, not only do I have to do research and then write my market intelligence bulletins and publish that, but in addition to that, I teach people. In addition to that, I've got to make sure that the cash flow of the business I'm in is actually such that all the expenses that need to come out are maintained by the cash flow. So I haven't got to be selling assets to be paying the bills. Do you see what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yes.
Because sometimes you may need to pay a bill, but if you're paying the bill at the wrong cycle of the, for the asset, you might be selling it, being forced to sell it too cheaply just so you have to pay some bills. So you got to make sure all that's managed. And so you got to have, I do having a deep reserve. So you got to go, you dip into your reserves, your savings, and not into the other assets. And so there's a whole range of things you must be on top of.
Yes.
And so, and depending on where you're coming from, you may be coming from the area where you're good with people, but you're rubbish with numbers. Well, then the numbers side of it is going to cause you a headache. Or you might be good with the numbers side, but you're not good with speaking to people. You have a way of talking to people and making them hate you and alienate them. Do you know what I mean? And that's a detrimental personality defect you have to fix,
Yes.
because you can't be a difficult person to be with and then expect people to warm to you when they want to buy your products. It doesn't work. And so, yeah, those are some of the lessons that when you look at the world of entrepreneurialism, it's not just one thing. You have to have multiple skills, and it just takes a while to get really good.
Beautiful answer. That's a good one because I know when I do my coaching, I often come across people with the same kind of issues. They either connected to the product and they're really into the product, but the sales and marketing they're weak on, or they don't think that's really important. But I think without sales and marketing, especially marketing nowadays, it's kind of like with the internet and the way how things are moving on in that direction is is something which all of us need. And my next question is, how has this downturn affected you, as in the COVID area? What have you gained from that, or what you feel in that particular thing? How has that affected you?
I want to be I want to be careful what I say next, because
Okay.
I've dismissed the whole thing as basically being a fiction that has been perpetuated on mankind. And I think, I like to stay in the realm of reality, not fiction. And so, what I can say is that the COVID environment has been very good for me personally. I know others have struggled and had a very difficult time, but for me personally, it's been business as usual and even better. So what do I mean by that? I sit in an office which is in the back part of my home. And so for me, my commuting is to go from the bar, go from my bedroom to the bathroom, keep walking down the hallway to get into the kitchen and then to the office. So that's basically my journey. So I didn't have to leave the house. So when everyone was on restrictions and lockdown, I'm like, no problem. I can walk up and down my hallway. I'm good. So there was that. The second thing is that I'm teaching on a platform exactly as we are here. Yeah. So when I teach here, so there is no need to social distancing is already a phenomena, right here.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't an impact. And secondly, I'm actually making on the stock market, making money on the stock market. And when you know what you're doing, you can make a fortune. One of my students is a young lad. When I say young, he's in his 30s. He's 30 actually.
Yeah.
And he was quite excited because he's now learnt the absolute fundamentals of what I teach. He's learnt it all, and he's now seen it, and he's calibrated into his being. So it's now his skill set. And he came and said to me last week that on a trade we did, he made 100% in 2 days.
Okay.
100% in 2 days. Now, remember I told you that I was talking 20 years ago, make 100% in 1 year. He did it in 2 days. Yeah,
Right.
on the stock market. Now that can happen when you know what you're doing.
What would you say is generally your I know you're working from home and the things are pretty good. There are a lot of people who are going through a lot of difficulties at the moment, and um, I always say to some of the people who associate with me, don't listen to the news a lot, and basically look after yourself first. So what would you say are the things to do with that for yourself? I know.
Okay, I don't want to sound too controversial, and I don't want to make light of anything, but look, we are dealing with something that is a variation of a flu. The human body has been designed to handle flus. All you have to do is strengthen your immune system, by exercise, by proper sleep, and by nutrition, high nutrition. And we're talking about the vitamin range of nutrition. And once you deal with those things and you maintain a very positive mental mindset, so you don't allow yourself to go into depression, don't allow yourself to handle problems from a stress perspective. So one thing I've been doing recently is spending time with yoga and meditation. Now,
Yes.
had you spoken to me 30 years ago, that would have been like the furthest thing I'd be paying attention to.
Yes.
But I've realized now that, look, I can handle a problem stressed, or I can handle a problem calmly. And I've noticed I get much better results if I'm calm and I handle a problem. It's not as though I say the problem's not there. I'll fix the problem, but I want to do it with a very calm head, very clear, so I know what I'm doing. And what I don't want to do is be stressed and anxiety and anxious and this and that. No, no, no. Don't want to be in that headspace. So at that headspace, if I do go there, by the way, because I'm human, if I do go there, especially when I'm trading and something is like causing me some tension, I can feel it building up. You know what I'll do, Hilton? I'll get on the floor and I'll knock out as many press ups as I can do before I become exhausted.
Yeah.
And I remember one time, now 50 is my number, right? Let's knock out 50. And I remember one time I was so stressed, I knocked out 80 without even realizing. I didn't even know I was that strong. I just did 80 press ups. And then I came back, wore myself out. And then once you do that, you just feel calm again. And then I looked at my computer screen and I was just back to a calm disposition and can make some sensible decisions. You see what I mean? And
Yes.
so this is how I want to solve my problems. I want to solve problems when I'm calm, not when I'm stressed.
Yes.
And so if I find myself getting stressed now, I'll say, stop, oh, wrong headspace, go get calm and come back and deal with what I've got to deal with. And if I do that, everything runs much, much smoother, much smoother.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That's a wonderful answer. Before I ask my last question, where can people find you online or your course, the things what you do?
Okay. Milestoneinvesting.co.uk. You can go to milestoneinvesting.co.uk. I've got a number of free resources on the YouTube, some YouTube channels, which you can go to just for the fundamentals of investing. And essentially, investing first starts as a mindset. And then you have to have a very strong reason why do you want to do what you want to do. There's got to be a strong reason, because I remember I was done some training with a man called Tony Robbins a long time ago, and I think also Jim Rohn said the same thing as well, that 90% of success is why and 10% is mechanics.
Yes.
Now, I used to come from the point of view, I'm going to teach you the mechanics. So I taught people how to trade, etc., or to invest in a property market, and they wouldn't do anything because the why wasn't there.
Yes.
The strong reason for doing it, the motivation for doing it wasn't there. And so I realize now that, if you get your why, if you know why you wanted something and why is strong enough, you'll learn, you'll figure it out. And so get your why in place and make sure it's a powerful why that moves you and you believe in it. And then figure out and then learn the mechanics, because that's the next set. And once you learn the mechanics and then you practice those mechanics and get good at it, then you're literally going to do really, really well in almost anything you do, as long as you have a powerful reason to get out of bed. Because I always thought, here's another thing as well, Hilton. I always thought to myself, I'll be retired at 60 and I'll be doing nothing, put my legs up watching TV, whatever. And I was lucky that I was able to retire when I was 37. So when I was 37, I retired. And I remember spending time in Hawaii. And I was on the beach in Hawaii thinking, what am I doing here? I don't need a suntan. What am I doing here? And I thought, no, that's it. I'm going back home, going back to the UK, and I'm going to do something, because I can't sit around doing nothing. And prior to that, I was a workaholic. So
Yeah.
I've gone from workaholic to sitting on the beach in Hawaii doing nothing.
Yeah.
But hanging out with rich people, just socializing. And for me, that wasn't the way to spend my life. And I thought, no, I'm not doing this. I'm going to go find some problems. I'm going to go and find the solution to those problems. I'm going to fix them. And that's
Correct.
going to be what I'm going to sort of spend my time doing. And you know what's interesting? Now that I'm actually doing exactly that, the idea of retiring doesn't make any sense to me because I actually love what I'm doing so much. Why would I retire?
Yeah.
You know, retire and do what? That's like saying, my favorite food is, say, I don't know, whatever it is. And then someone says, well, when are you going to stop eating your favorite food? When are you going to retire? Why would you? Why would you retire from your favorite food, especially if it's nutritious and healthy and, you like it? Why would you retire from that? Keep on doing what you love.
Great. That's wonderful, Miles. So my last question is this: how would you want to be remembered?
How would I want to be remembered? I think I'd want to be. It's a good. Ooh, I've not even thought about this one actually, because you do know that I won't be dying for another 50 years, right? And when I'm 100 years old, I'm inviting you to my birthday party. So make sure you live long. Okay, how would I like to be remembered? Leave planet Earth having made a huge difference to a huge demographic of society where had I not been here, then some things would still not be fixed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'd like to know that when I leave, I've owned a problem. There's something I saw that I thought I could have the skills to fix, and I just went and fixed it.
Beautiful, Miles. Thank you so much, Miles. That's wonderful. And I must also say to you, I even thank you more deeply because we used to do a mastermind together, remember, quite a few years ago. And at the time, I remember I was in Wisbech doing some building work. This is in 2015, 16. And I still do my press-ups in the morning, and we started doing that together, and that was so nice, and so I thank you for your time on this webinar, and I wish you all the best.